started with, just to go back a little bit, the rainfall of May 18th was a significant rainfall. This is Lee Avenue. This is Stony Run at Hanover. What you see here is Hanover. I think the water was even higher at one point. This was in the afternoon of that day. Water was starting to recede by a little bit, but this was a dramatic impact. And it's not the same watershed, but it's the pictures I happen to have for historical reference. This is the night of May 27th. Took a picture in the dark. Our operations manager did. Same general location. Lee Avenue is this way. This water is now even higher across Stony Run. You look to the right here and you see nothing but water. The house at the next corner has got water all up in it. So it's exceeded the capacity of the stream. It's not that there's a problem with the culvert here, but this just gives you an indication of what we're dealing with. Two dramatically significant events in less than 10 days. The next picture, same evening, the operations manager and the chief, I believe, were traveling on Hill Carter Parkway. To your right is Chick-fil-A, Route 54. To your left is where there was a drainage ponding issue for project under construction, Penske. Some of the things that were put in front of the inlets to keep sediment from getting in were doing a lot more than that. They had clogged up, blocked the inlet, and water was ponding everywhere, which, by the way, is what happened at 54 and Route 1. Those inlets under construction had all exposed earth, had those same kinds of things, so they had to get pulled out to allow for that flooding to go down. But as he drove through here, he felt a bump of significance that he had never felt before. This is up above the culvert in the southbound lane of that roadway. And you can't really tell it, but it had settled 4-5 inches just that night. This was the next day. But you can really tell nothing. I was optimistic at that time. Well, maybe some silt has leaked into the joints of the culvert, into the lift holes. Sometimes the grouting gets away, and it would be a matter of digging this up, tamping some stone in, and rebuilding this. It didn't play out that way at all. Monday we had a holiday. Tuesday came out, took a picture. This is from the upstream end, looking downstream. So I'm looking to our left, of course, is where Chick-fil-A and Route 54 are. And you can see the third section in had settled, dropped. This is about 6 inches at this point. The fourth section you can see behind it dropped even more. The fifth section you can't tell from here dropped even more. So now we know we cannot, it's not a simple fix, okay? Something major is going on, can't really tell what is going on. So we started hunting down plans, and the first step was, of course, to pump this out so we could see what's going on under here. And this all took several days, of course. I hat off to our town engineer, Ingrid. She talked to the original designer, the original contractor who built it. It's all part of a project for the standard management development back in the early 2000s. Had some input from another local contractor, had our engineering consultant involved, and they submitted some sketches that we developed later in that week, which we've been following as a guideline. And so this next picture is after we've pumped it down, and now you can see the full sections. Just for scale, these sections are 8 feet wide. From face to face on the inside is 18 feet, so it's a massive structure there. And so there's, I think, 110 feet or so, I think is right, 100 and something in that range of these put together side by side. And you can see these sections are okay, but these 3 sections have all dropped. We're now looking upstream instead of downstream like the first picture. But you can see what had been a scour wall here that was up against here, that's all been undermined and eroded and gone away and fallen away, and it's eroded under these to the end that they dropped. So start figuring out how do we deal with this. Here's one more picture of right at the wall, and you can see the hollow under there so that there's nothing supporting it. The first thing we came up with, here's the first sketch. It kind of shows the existing condition. And here, North England Street is to your right, and they've kind of depicted in where it had dropped. This was really kind of underestimated at the time. This was really hollowed out all the way up to here. This is a 5-foot spread footing, and the idea was the way this was built on the natural creek bed was there. It was brought down. These were built on they basically dug a trench here and constructed a stone type base to support all of this. Okay, And then they poured in these walls that were called scour walls that came down to this level that had been, built up. These were just kind of poured in here roughly, not really formed, just into the trench to keep scour from coming in and undermining the footings. That was the intent. And it worked for a while, but not at the end of the day. So this one had settled and broken down. The next slide will show you here. I kind of sketched in here. It dropped down. I modified it a little bit to show it. It was void all the way up to the end of this thing. This side, the scour wall and the footing and all of that stayed in place. So I should have drawn a line down to here because this all remained in place on the south wall, which is towards Walmart. So that's what we were dealing with. So they say step one, remove the overburdened soils, which is everything above it, fill bottom with concrete. Remove knee walls on south side at the 3 affected sections. We ended up not doing that. These had all fallen away, and they had to drag all of those out. So then the next picture, here it is. I wanted to get an overview from it. This is with the overburden. Everything above has been removed, as you can see here. This is, again, to the right is Chick-fil-A England Street. This is the head wall on the upstream end. On the downstream end is another head wall here. Is this pointer not pointing back to the right? Okay, good. Just making sure. This is a dam we built to keep water from coming back into the project. And then there's also a dam here. This is a large pump, 6-inch pump that is now pumping the creek up to an inlet here. It just, up on the road, it drains to that. And then by pipe, it flows to an inlet across here, makes its way down, and discharges here. So that's how we have our bypass piping working. This is a generator for other pumps to help dewater the inside as best we can. Now, with riprap and sandbags, you can't stop the flow entirely, so there's water trickling in all the time. It's pretty wet down in there, but you'll continue to see that in the pictures. Here it is with the overburden removed. You can see this is the median. The median's to your right. This is the trail section here is settled. This middle section settled even more, and you can't see this until the next picture, but that's also down pretty good. The median is over on this side now. So this is what it looked like above, fairly dramatic settling issues. So I think I went backwards. Step one was to pour concrete up to the bottom of it. Well, we did that, and while this was going on, these 3 sections dropped some more, okay? So now, instead of the worst one being down maybe 10 inches, it's down maybe 15. And this one here was down about 8 inches. And the same with the one on the other side. But this is freshly poured. It's still kind of foamy because they pump it from up above and these hoses down into here. But now these are under concrete, and that was a concern. So the contractor dug that out by hand before it had set up to get exposed down back to the bottom, packed that over here to help provide some more security to this scour wall, which you can see went all the way to, that was unaffected. What these little pieces are here is, since this was poured in just a dug trench, there's a little extra shards on top that were just laying there, so we helped to square that off and just knocking those off, okay? I've included this picture to give kind of an understanding. This is the filter fabric that had been used with the riprap with the stream restoration that started upstream of there. The actual stream bed elevation was at the top of these walls, okay? It went across here. And so over time, it had scoured out and hence needed this restoration project upstream. But the contractors working there, our project managers, engineers, everybody never noticed or observed a problem here. I think it had been undermined also through here, but it still was not affecting these scour walls. But then we've had such dramatic storms. Now the flow line of the creek is up here. So when it comes into here, it's boiling over. And then that's where even more scour and erosion happened since this was done probably 7 years ago, I believe, something like that. And so then these 2 massive storms just in May were the final straw that broke this back. So that's that picture. Step 2, he's calling it, is once concrete is set, install jacks and jack up slipped precast culvert sections. That's a step. Another step then is install framework and place concrete under the wall. So step 1 is jack it up, and step 2A, I guess, is form this and pour this concrete under there, okay? Now, we spent some days working on a jacking system, getting some jacking system, having something ordered from Oklahoma, I think. And, so that took a little time. We were also at the same time talking to a crane person that Talley and Armstrong have worked with. Maybe we can lift it up and then we'd put these here just to give stability while we're forming it up. At the end of the day, we were really concerned about this jacking system, and the crane operator wasn't 100% sure he could lift it. So we came back to the idea I started with, which was I've seen people move houses, I've seen people move lighthouses. I mean, I've watched documentaries on the lighthouses down along the Atlantic being moved inland. So I know you can lift things with that kind of system. So that next day, David Armstrong talked to one of the people that he'd worked with, and they came out and looked at it and said, we can do that Monday. The soonest, which was Monday past, the soonest we could have done all this system would be this coming Friday. Lots of storms predicted. More time goes away. So we said, let's do that. And so next picture, these are the actual jacking systems. A lot more stable. They build these cribs up. This was all done Monday morning, and the jacks haven't started trying to work yet. They started with this section closest to the median, thought they'd try pushing that up first. It didn't budge. Did this one, put the two together, thought they'd try moving two together, wouldn't budge. They were just finishing putting the third one in. They got a plate here, and they started the machine again to crank it up, and the whole thing as a unit started to go up, so we were feeling better. So they would stop, push some more boards up there to have some safety in case it blew out of line or whatever, and slowly over the course of 2 hours, jack this entire thing back up. So that all happened yesterday. Here is the picture of that first section with the final push to get the ceiling back to normal, okay? So then after that, we had these concrete blocks. We propped it up, got a little carried away because we only had the corners exposed when this cribbing was here, right? And so same here and the other side. And then we took this one off. That held with the two jacks, but you can see these, we're putting in more bricks. Here, not quite enough bricks on either corner. And when we took the pressure off the jack, it crushed the bricks. Only went down about 2 inches because we left the jacks in place. Took it back up and started going haywire with putting bricks in there. Now this one is not tight. I don't think another one of these was tight. So when they formed it up this morning before they poured, they pulled these out because they wanted to get concrete in between these. They used a plasticized concrete and a vibration machine and got it to flow under there. In fact, we had daylighted it outside and concrete was coming up outside, so we know it was under the entire footing. And so this held overnight, and then they formed it and poured it today. And so this by later in the day, they'd remove the forms. This is now a footing. They poured high so the gravity would help to push it up under. These are the rebar that they've doweled into the entire wall that's been exposed. So when they do the final floor of this thing that will be at this elevation that's marked here, you have some steel tying this concrete to these walls to help deter any further settlement as well as to help hold the whole thing together. So that's where that stands. Here's what it looks like from the outside after it's been jacked up. You can see it's looking pretty good in comparison. Next, remove Jackson framework. We've done that and place additional concrete between knee walls. This is scheduled for Thursday. They've got some more prep work to do, forming on each end. And then they have one more step in here of using 8,000-pound concrete as the final slab. That's what has the dowel. That's the elevations of those dowels. And this is really wrongly presented. This scour wall on the south side is still in place. That's our final elevation. That's got a nice edge to tie to. We're going to leave that in place. This is where we've done the filling under here. Now we've done this, and this will be it. And they're going to pour both of these sections, all remaining concrete, in one pour Thursday, okay? And then that will set up, and we will not do anything in terms of the site. We'll do some cleanup around the outside and other things, but we can then open this to flow, put the stream back in service Monday, and begin with the backfill of bringing this all the way back up to a roadway section, which again will take some time, takes good weather, but we've got a plan in place with the contractor to bring this all the way back up. It'll probably be at least 2 full weeks to do all of that, including paving. Weather delays could make it out to be, 3, 4, 5 weeks, but we're going to keep banging away at it and get it done as soon as possible. So that's the full scope there. I do have one little video I'll show you. It's only 16 seconds. I didn't think about taking a video until it was too late in the game, but I got the last little push on this one section if you want to see that. No sound, so you can't hear the machine grunting it, but there it is going, and it slowly goes up, and they push and stop and look, push and stop and look, and push and stop and look, and then it's kind of getting there, getting there. Slam, it's there. So I thought that's
wow.
Cool.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's the whole presentation. Happy to answer any questions about where we are, but I think we've hit it pretty hard, pretty aggressively, and coming along and are in real good shape. This budget was generated 3 weeks ago now. 2 weeks ago after Ingrid met with you. We continued to work on it. A lot has evolved since then. We've had to make some decisions and proceeded with your okay to do that to get the road open as soon as possible. So I'm optimistic that we'll be able to come in certainly at this or under this budget. I did add one sentence to the motion, if you would consider it. I've underlined it, not really a sentence, but
Specialty contractors.
yes, to include specialty contractors like the person that helped us lift it. That was someone that, Tally and Armstrong doesn't do that. They would sub that, so they found him, they brought him in, they talked with him. I agreed to the price, $8,500, just so you know. And yet I want to make sure they're included in the motion so that we can have them bill us directly. We don't have to pay the 15% markup for Tally and Armstrong to run it through their books or the 5% sales tax, and it'll save us 20% to pay it directly. But if you make that part of the motion, I will then write up why we use the various specialty contractors to go with the file, just to cover all auditing eventualities. But that's the project.
That was incredibly informative. Yeah.
I took the opportunity to go over there with Mr. Davis and see it firsthand, and the engineering work to build it in the first place was amazing, and I want to commend you and your staff. We have an excellent engineering staff who were on top of this instead of suddenly saying, "Oh no, what do we do?" They were on top of it immediately.
And Ingrid did a great job at the last meeting filling in for you and laying the groundwork for this.
And I appreciate what she did.
Yeah.
I happened to be out of town. I'd scheduled a trip to visit my son and wasn't going to change that. So.
Yeah. Did the original design, if it had more rebar, would that have maybe helped keep that together?
It might have held the scour wall there, but it wouldn't have helped underneath.
Okay.
The original design was done early in the days of wetlands mitigation and impacts. I mean, a lot of those things came into the 90s and evolved, and I think it was a Corps of Engineers issue on getting approval to do a regular box culvert. So they came up with this design to leave the natural stream bed. In hindsight, I think that was a bad decision, but that was the proposal that was sent into the town. It seemed like a sound design. They have 5-foot spread footings there on each side, and I think we could have done a better job of monitoring it. Just whenever we looked at it, it looked fine because all we ever saw was the water level, and you could still see the scour walls in place. But we haven't monitored it. Even when they were working downstream, the restoration downstream started a few weeks ago, maybe a month or so ago now. Lose track of the time, but even that, with our people there, the contractor there, the observations were it was not an issue there. So the only way to have known would have been, let's take some hip waders in here and see how deeply we sink. We just didn't think of it, quite frankly. So.
Well, I will note that according to the rain gauge at the college, from the 1st of May through essentially the time that this thing collapsed, the town had over 12 inches of rain. And we all know what Ashland is like when it rains. It's just not able to handle that volume of water in that short period of time.
John?
I apologize if I missed it, and y'all have done a tremendous job, really impressive, but when will it be open, the road?
I'm anticipating maybe the week after Independence Day. I mean, we have to, it's a very, very deep fill, so we're going to take time, make sure it's compacted properly, even to work down in there. Talking to the contractor today, he's not safe putting someone down there. So we will, he has, we'll rent a remote-controlled rolling compactor. He'll, start filling it with stones, start with some number 3 stones, and compact that and slowly build up and to get to 21A and compact it in layers and lifts. And again, it depends on the weather. So if all goes well, weather-wise and everything else, once we get up to the top, he's got to replace the curb and gutter, get that poured, and then, we'll meet with our paving contractor to be on board, on deck, ready to go to work once we get to the point where he can do that and the trail. I'm thinking that'll take at least until the end of the week after July 4th. And, again, if weather is just not cooperative, it could take another week or two. But I'm pretty optimistic we can get it in that time frame.
Y'all are doing a terrific job. Thank you.
Yeah, kudos. And I'll also say that when you go there and looking south down the stream, it looks spectacular.
It does, and that didn't really get.
You don't even know you're in Ashland.
Impacted.
Yeah.
Other than where they're working now, and you can see this culvert was flowing absolutely full. You can see the line on that bank that was there. You could see the debris line where water comes up, and it was right at the top of the culvert. So
Yeah.
it was a massive volume of water.
Yeah, super. Might we